Armchair Generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, starting a new series of Hearts of Iron 4 with Black Ice 4.1, and we are going to be playing as Germany. I know I just did a series playing as Germany with Road to 56, but that went off the rails. We sort of stepped back. It went off the rails even more. So, playing Germany again. This may sound like a lot of Germany, but what I really haven't done with the new fuel system, and I know some of you obviously play a little faster and don't separate things out as much. I really want to play Germany with the new fuel system. And I know it's different for Black Ice than is with a standard game, or than it could be for Road to 56. But I really want to get through an actual good chunk of the war. Doesn't have to be to the end, but it may be playing as Germany. So I'm looking at the last series very much as an aborted series, and doesn't count between my normal want to play Germany, then another nation, and then back to Germany, then another nation, and then back to Germany. Now, also another reason I waited and I wanted to play Road to 56 when I did is to let Black Ice settle down. Now, they're not going to cater to, hello Tippett, cater to all of my needs or desires, but so they're going to put out new versions when they are going to. But I didn't want to, right after the latest DLC slash just free upgrade elements happened, go through many update versions and that may not be compatible with the current playthrough. So I wanted it to settle down a little bit because I want to get somewhere in this before having to start over. Okay, but I want to read this here. This new version includes a fix to the fuel bug, fixes to the US tree, AI improvements, a scripted equipment variant designer for the AI. The list of equipment AI is able to make a variant of this in the changelogs. Okay, a little bit of a clumsy sentence there, but okay, all right. At least the way I'm reading it. Experience gain factor has been added to AI on higher difficulties. Next, I want to see what else. Features, we've added a huge array of equipment, a specialized armor. Okay, I think this is going into the sort of standard. Reworked and expanded the OB's division templates. Yes, okay. You're using any other mods at your own risk, right? A historical. Yes, and we do have historical AI option in the standard game clipped. Yeah. Okay. Hey Lum, how you doing there? And so yesterday I was sort of preparing for this. I mean I didn't even play, I don't even think a day of this, but I got in and looked around and oh, that feeling when you fall in love all over again. Oh my. This is so good. And I was looking around and I was looking around and I was looking around and I couldn't find the all-important thing here anywhere. Now, maybe I'm missing it. Maybe it's still here. But where's the all-important restore the Kaiser thing? No. This is why I like, maybe I should say love, but we've thought we've loved things before. And they've treated us wrong. But why I definitely like Black Ice. And we may get to somewhere that I'm doing great. And so we're looking at something that is historically plausible starting in January 1936. That's what I want. And again, I'll say it. Hey, Kaiserreich's cool. Kaiserreich reimagines everything. So if you're going to reimagine the start and not have Hitler in charge, have the Kaiser already there, but like as a shaky, they just threw out Hitler, or they've thrown out Hitler and the world's let them restore the Kaiser, and sort of a shaky Germany that you're trying to rebuild Germany under the Kaiser. You want to reimagine the world that way, fine, do that. Set all this stuff up. Okay, we could do 14 days, political power, nice, that's worth it. Enter the Rhineland. That's very good, as we can see all of the industrial bonuses, including military factories, from getting into the Rhineland. The OKH, we can do that. The Allgemeine SS takes 0 days to complete. We could do that. We're going to not do that, the very first one. 35, develop. We don't need convoy interdiction at this moment. Kriegsmarine, which we very well might because it's only 7 days, but we also get some dockyards. Or 7 days for the Luftwaffe. Road to autarky, 40 days. We're going to do that after we get the Rhineland, but I think we're going to start with this. Just get that as a national focus. I haven't noticed their advisors yet. And Hitler and the Hohenzollern monarchy was Hitler was trying to rebuild Germany. Hitler was not trying to restore the old Germany. Very much so. But he allowed the old aspects, such as aristocrats who were going to jump on the Hitler train, as it were, to do so. So, and you can generally find, and I think one of the, was it Kaiser's grandchildren or whatever, was fairly high up in the SA, I think. So you can find some of those types looming around in there. And so he was willing to co-opt them. Now, if it's the Habsburg monarchy, he has a deep-seated hatred for the Habsburg monarchy. Okay. Those who've watched me... Oh, and this is also really cool. Wood-fire engines. Wood-fire engines 2. Charcoal engines. Right. I don't know much how charcoal engines change from... Well, this is actually they're setting up for mechanized usage. Now, again, and I did see this yesterday when I was looking at this, I would make this only available in wartime for any of the nations. I would not have it available in civilian time. And seeing this, don't know how big of a fuel usage really affect that 1 and 5% are for those specific units, but I would probably make them go slower. Now, hey IKP. Yes, this is the current Black Ice. Habsburgs, the Austrians, yes. Yes. He hated the Habsburg monarchy for various reasons. Wood-fire engines work. They work reasonably well, but use the story that I read somewhere. A bus between two towns, I think it was in Germany, though they also did wood-fire engines, I know. I've recently found out I think they were doing it in the Soviet Union. They did lots of it in Britain. That's where I was first sort of hearing about it. They did lots of it in Germany, and also they did it in Finland, so presumably other nations. I just haven't always dug up the info on everything. So, but going between two towns, you know, a municipal type bus, that inner city bus, that on one hill it was standard that all the passengers got out and helped push the bus up over the hill. Partially it was just to lighten the bus, get the people off of it. So I presume if you had a little old lady or something, she wasn't out pushing the bus, just getting off the bus for a short distance over it. So they're much weaker engines, so I would slow down using And I've only seen really experimental use on military vehicles of wood fire engines as far as it goes. But okay, we're going to do excavation research for sure. We're going to do dispersed production efficiency. I guess we're going to go with the historical. And quality control, yes, because I want to unlock all of these. I haven't really looked too deep, but these are sort of the standard labor thing, so we will unlock that. Now, looks like everything here for World War I has been researched. This, I think, is just a missing icon, but no problem. So we are in the World War II tree fire brigades. Now, I've also noticed, not only do we have that, we do have like an asymmetric tree. Notice these are not doable because we have this done. So you have to pick one of these. But I like that they sort of did a tree just for, oh, I don't know, nations like Afghanistan or some sort of communist China maybe. But we also have special forces, command hierarchy that are not mutually exclusive. Excuse me. Don't know if any of these are mutually exclusive, but regimental doctrines. Elastic defense, prepared defense, defense in depth. Now, again, and I haven't, other than just seeing that these were here yesterday, haven't looked into them very deeply. What I really like about Hearts of Iron 3 that isn't in Hearts of Iron 4 is in an improvement to one of the battle tactics specifically. Because as you go through, as you're working through, sometimes you will mobile warfare doctrine, land doctrine. You get a new technique for battles. I would have them incrementally get better over time. So through research. So instead of just doing it and having it done. How long does it take to? Okay. Time to research 238 days. So we may not be starting on some of these. 190 days, 285. Okay, these aren't going to go fast. For nearly a year, they're going to tie up a slot. Okay. Now, of course, they've given us a lot more slots. Let's look at our armor. The only one of that, well, not the only thing, but I wish, because I jump around between mods, I wish they'd kept the standard that beige or whatever you call this to be researched or has been researched, and this is to be researched. They just swap it. If you only play Black Ice, you just get used to it, but I'm not. 200 days. Well, there may be a national focus to reduce some of those. Radios, okay, too far ahead of time. What? Why is that? It just, I'm seeing 1918 here, 34, whatever. Okay, not that big of a deal. All right, let's look back up here. We're in 36, so we could do the prototype. 109, early 110. But you can guess we're gonna do naval bomber, yay! Because we're going to try, shall we say, we need to look here, and I did look. we have sort of all the current. That's too far in advance to start now. I mean, we could, but it's just not useful. I like that they've done a lot of this. This looks really good. And yes, I'm doing this to show you off. Hello, Brett. Good to have you here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at, particularly for Germany, at asymmetric naval warfare, which can come in the form of submarines. Where do we have submarines? Are they just part of this? Oh yeah, they're over here. Okay. Okay, these are all researched up to 35 to 1940. Submarines, mine warfare now added to the game, and aerial warfare. We are not going to try to compete on the Royal Navy's strengths. We're going to compete against their weaknesses. Wow, they've done this really nicely. The only real problem with this whole thing is it's a problem of success. They have successfully been adding. I guess we will do this one. Features to the game. Did we look at artillery? I don't know that we did much. And it just makes the user interface a little more clumsy. Yeah, we'll do that. Get all those infrastructure things out of the way first. Now we have more buildings, recruitment centers. I think we're going to go back to the old standard of starting out in 36 here of building I think some of these will be upgraded as infrastructure with some national focuses. There we go. Increase that now. Yeah. Now it's like some of the national focuses give text, so you might not need to research them. Okay, good. Very likely IKB. Yeah, Brett. It's definitely a complicated thing, and I wish they paused when they popped up. Now I like digging into the depths of all of this, but I can definitely see that some of this goes beyond what's needed in the game. We're just going to go with sort of standard 11-inch guns. Again, like I say, we're not going to try to defeat the Royal Navy in its main grounds. Yeah, the Gebergs Brigade was formed June 35. One of the units marched into Austria during the annexation. No. We're not going to go with the heavy guns because I want to just get them produced and out of the way, quite honestly. So we're currently, well, what do we currently need? Okay, well, we need horse artillery. We need just regular, those are the wagons to draw them. We need regular artillery, we need coastal batteries, need Q equipment. Okay. Again, I wish this would pop up and pause. That's a not a black ice thing. That's a Hoi 4 thing. For two reasons, I wanted to pause. Excuse me. One, because I want to be able to read it and not feel got to jump on it. But so many times, I like pop-ups. But so many times, if the game is playing, I'm going down to select this, and something pops up just in enough time, and I click on it. And well, what did I just click? Meaning, I was hoping to click this, but something pops up on top of it. Okay, Italy strong condemned for using chemical weapons in Ethiopia. Response: the League of Nations condemns the Italian invasion in 35. Voted to impress economic sanctions on the sanctions effective because of the general lack of support, although Mussolini's aggression was viewed with disfavor by the British, who had a stake in the East Africa. The other major powers had no real interest in opposing. I would disagree that France did have an interest. Now, a note on this, they did sanction Italy, so my understanding it only was League of Nations that sanctioned them, because that was who did it. So the U.S. did not have sanctions against them. Germany, who was not a member of the League of Nations, was not sanctioning them at the time. It included basically all imports to Italy except one: oil. The one thing that could cripple Italy was oil, and that was the one thing they didn't sanction, which is interesting. And the sanctions were lifted very shortly after Italy wins. Okay, so we got that. Let's do the Kriegsmarine, which will get us more dockyards right away. Yeah, and taking a while, to me, that's not a negative thing. I've played earlier versions of Black Ice, so I sort of kind of think I have it mostly handled, but you know, if you're looking for a fast, like, you know, the player stats for Hearts of Iron 4, just the standard game, are pretty damn good. Much better than Imperator Rome. So if you're just looking at that, and a lot of people say that they just want, you know, and this is an interesting thing. I recently heard why people like Minecraft. Just because it's sort of an easy, I've never played it. I've seen some videos of people playing it, but I've never played it. Just sort of an easy to sort of, at least mostly, I guess, play games that just you don't have to think. You can just sort of zone out and do. Well, that's sort of what Hearts of Iron 4 has become for a lot of people. And the Paradox team has sort of embraced that. A lot of people just sort of want to relax and draw some battle lines out and just have the game sort of play itself, and they just sort of watch it. Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not like criticizing for somebody who wants some easy, relax time. I don't. This army experience, brow hitch, gains, maneuver. Yeah, some of these I do think will like give bonuses to various research. So we're going to enter the Rhineland. Yeah, you can definitely look at what's primary, but missing equipment does reduce your effectiveness of your units, and it varies from equipment to equipment. So, what? Okay. MIFO bills, we will have to watch those. Demand increase, Dutch trade with Germany. That we don't really need. right now. Well, I'm hoping to not fight any surface battles. IKB. Demand more Dutch trade. So, to me, playing as Germany, fighting a naval surface battle, is a failure of its in and of itself. Sort of goes back to Sun Tzu. And I hate trying to, because I misquote things, so I'm not going to try to quote Sun Tzu. But, well, we'll do the sort of know yourself and know your enemies. And again, obviously these are translations, so I'm butchering it to some degree. I'm sure, no matter what. Know yourself and know your enemy, and always be victorious. Know yourself, but not your enemy. You can stand a pretty good chance. Again, I'm butchering this stuff. You can stand a pretty good chance. No, not your enemy and not yourself. You're going to lose, basically. So, so you can make up a division and not add on stuff. Yes, okay, I get that. I get that, Brett. Yes, I get what you're saying, Brett. So, we need to know what Germany is. And this is what I'm sure cost Germany a lot of its military power at the start of World War I, at least, is the Kaiser's naval buildup primarily facing against Britain. You know, all of that naval effort to build the Kaiser's fleet that was designed to face off against, if needed, and it did need, obviously it went to war, against the British fleet. Just think of what that would have been had they put it into artillery. Obviously they weren't doing tanks and aircraft before World War I, but you've got artillery, you've got rifles, you got Maxim machine guns. Probably for at least frontline units, the Russians are best equipped for numbers of Maxims per troops. Okay. 1936 Winter Olympics closing ceremonies. Gold, silver. Okay. Britain was, well, I don't know, maybe France was even worse, but sort of at the start. But Britain was pretty poor on the percentages or numbers of machine guns per battalion. The Germans with the MG08 were trying, doing fairly well. But they could have easily doubled, and as the war goes on, I think they go to like 4 times or something the starting number of compared to the starting of the war, the number of machine guns per battalion, plus having specific machine gun battalions. So you could have easily put that industrial effort into other things, and still put some into a navy, because they did have overseas colonies, Cameroon, Tanganyika, way out in the islands out here. And so, you know, some ability to, you know, I don't know, fight the Spanish or the Portuguese if there was that kind of thing. Remilitarization of the Rhineland. That I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm absolutely sure that's a photo from the troops coming home from the Spanish Civil War. That's the guy in the brown uniform there, clearly. It's German territory, yes. Okay, so we've entered the Rhineland. We can try to push alliance with Italy, but first we're going to come over here and get the Allgemeine SS, the General SS. Now, because of the Rhineland, we now have access to more factories. Let's see what we need. And Brett is right that we need to focus on some things. Okay, so we've gotten building up. We could do a little more artillery. We can definitely do HQ equipment. Okay. I'm still not terribly sure how much I like the garrison equipment idea here. I'm not saying they're wrong, but it just, to me, seems like garrison equipment should just be old standard equipment. And if you're out of old standard equipment, you just give them regular new equipment. Where am I? Probably passed it without paying attention. Yeah. Medium artillery. Let's do that and that. Now we can use more rubber. So let's come here to trade rubber. Belgium. That looks good. Trade with Belgium. Hopefully they will build factories at home, and when we take Belgium, we can get the factories. Looking. We don't need that. Munition factory, uniform factory, construction speed. That looks good for now, because we're not building fortifications now. Obviously we don't have that. We don't need the war industries. No, we are going to be building those. Walter Funk. Yeah, don't know how easy we're going to jump around between ministers, so we'll put him in. Get him in. And hello, OCB 84. I'm doing very well. So that should happen almost. It takes 1 day, even though it says 0. Okay, there we've got our Allgemeine SS. Now we're going to do road to autarky. Trying to think autarkies. They're not inherently a bad thing, but what they do, at least significantly, not maybe 100%, but they limit the growth of your economies. And that's an important factor, because if you say only produce enough steel, or you only produce steel that you can produce from your own resources, meaning your own iron and your own coal put together, because steel is a produced product. Well, theoretically iron is, because not only is it mined, it's smelted and purified, refined, if you will, iron. But steel is even more so. So if you're only relying upon the resources of the iron and coal from your own nation, you're limiting the amount of steel you can have in any 1 year. So you do limit the growth you can do for your economy. Economies, though, are not a finite thing. This is where a lot of socialists go wrong in their thinking. What was it recently? Some historical video I was watching, and just in the last week or so, and it was made very recently. They kept talking about, well, income inequality was still, a big thing, and income inequality. And as I'm watching that, and I don't know whether the person is just young and has only heard the term income inequality, so that's the way they speak because that's all they know, or whether they were just trying to use the modern buzzwords, or what they know better, but that's what they believe. Their income inequality is not and has never been a bad thing. What is the bad thing is poor people unable to get the necessary things to have a decent life. Food, shelter, housing of some sort. The basics, have a basic level job, have the basics. Hey, Ari. And so, so destitute poor people. There's always going to be people poorer than other people. No matter, if everyone's poor but they own their own private car, is that bad that they're poor? No, it's just they're not as rich as other people. Now, of course, there's poor people that have, squalor and nothing and, and just, are completely destitute. And that's a different thing. So, this is where, so the mere fact that somebody else is rich doesn't cause other people to be poor. It's not needing that somebody's hoarding something. Now, things like land, functionally, there's exceptions. We can look at the Dutch for creating land out of the sea, and recently saw. Oh no, that's right. It was on a thing I was watching, recently produced on Hong Kong, and they were talking about the history of Hong Kong during the colonial period. And they kept talking about income inequality. Oh man, the Hong Kongese, even the modern ones, would think of you as really weird and strange, because they're all about, even the poorest are all about income inequality. Now, they don't want to be the poorest, and they talked about how, I think it was in the 60s and 70s, Britain, as a colonial power, was doing building projects for low income housing, because if you look back into like the 50s and early 60s, because there had been lots of refugees from the communists and other people just poured into Hong Kong for a while, that people were just living in cages, not in the sense that they locked up, but just multi-story, within an open space in a building, but multi-level, little sort of cages within it. Maybe they'd lock themselves into it, not that they were locked up. So I don't want to make it like that, but just really people just really sort of desperate, not having decent housing. But they also talked about, and this is what reminded me again, because they were limited on land space, there was some areas that were fairly shallow, and they've reclaimed land from the sea. So in minor ways you can get more land, but more or less land is finite. So that there are finite things, but how much food land can produce is not finite, and I don't think we have even come to I think we can continue to grow our food production capability, so we're nowhere near. Malthus was wrong. That would be a good thing for a t-shirt, but no one would know what you were talking about. Maybe that, but that would make it cool, a t-shirt that says Malthus was wrong. But economies are a dynamic thing because we no longer live and exist on the gold standard. It's no longer, well, he has a mountain of gold, so that means somebody else can't have that gold. Well, yeah, still, if he has a mountain of gold, somebody else can't have that gold. But that doesn't make you poor because we're no longer doing gold as that. Video. Regards. Please host. Yeah, thanks, Arno. So, but limiting yourself with an autarky, because I was talking with well, I'm on the Exergen, or on the Hearts of on the Paradox Forum about population levels not too long ago, and he was thinking that we're overpopulating the Earth. Well, my understanding, someone figured out that if this was basic, the big island of Hawaii was basically a flat surface. Obviously, it's very mountainous, but a flat surface. The entire world's human population could easily stand comfortably, with elbow space on this one island. So all humanity could stand there. Well, that also tells me that if you are going to build like Hong Kong, you could house all of humanity on the big island of Hawaii. If you were to, build multi-story apartments and interconnected cities. So we could comfortably, if you were going to say, live like sort of modern Hong Kong, which I haven't been there, but seems like a very nice, maybe cramped living quarters, but, rather very nice setup there. We could house all of it there. So we're not stretching that capacity. Now, food growth. Well, I don't think we are doing, what would you call it, aquaculture, sea farming. I don't mean sea farming isn't just mass net fishing. I mean by raising, whether it can be seaweeds that, I know the Japanese eat seaweeds, but there's nutritious things can be grown there if we need to. But also simply by setting up farms that grow fish. We do have that in America on land, that we restock rivers and whatnot with fish. But you should be able to do that in the ocean. So I don't think we're doing that anywhere near what capacity in the ocean. And if we have free or cheap energy, this also really... hello, Samuel. Black ice. Oh, AKB said it. And so if we have free or cheap energy, we can do multi-level farms. Just simply build buildings, multi-levels, and have grow lights in them. If we have free or, if you have various cheap energies. So we can easily feed, if people are willing to modernize, and this is their culture and their societies, if people are willing to modernize, we could easily feed huge amounts of more people than we are currently. So, not only was Malthus wrong, we are nowhere near capacity. Well, let's start on advanced fighters, or otherwise known as 109s. Let's throw down a couple of more of these. Idea of income was Hitler was a collectivist. And I was recently debating someone on my channel posts. Is National Socialism socialism? And I would say clearly it is. But it isn't Marxist socialism. It isn't leveling socialism. If you're going to define it sort of strictly by Marxist socialist or Leninist Marxist socialist or other similar things as at least the end goal. Because a lot of progressive socialists, say most of the people running for president on the Democratic ticket now, are progressive socialists. They believe in communism. Now, they won't come out and tell you it. And, oh, Gamer, you're just right-wing talk. No, they believe in communism. But they believe it in the, 100 years, 200 years from now. Someday, man is just going to progress to that state as a natural state. That's what they believe. And they just want to keep slowly, some of them much faster, but want to keep moving the thing. They're not necessarily, there may be a few that maybe are revolutionary communists, but most are progressive communists. Okay, after April 36. I think we're going to, 32 days. Let's see. We got a few days here. So let's do, so there's Marxist socialism, which is a leveling socialism. People don't use that term enough. It's a term that I get out of the 17th century. Is leveling movements, is that everybody should be equal in outcome. Everybody in the old terms, everybody have an equal amount of farmland. It's not, everybody needs to be equal. And it goes like just talking about the idea that, fluorescent lighting, how interesting. I did not know much about that at the time. I didn't know specifically they were or they weren't doing it as being a thing. And so Hitler was not a leveler. He believed in hierarchies. So Hitler's socialism is not about leveling society. But Hitler does have, for the right types of people, a lot of the social welfare programs that most socialists have. He believes in the collective. He believes in the collective ownership of the means of production, though he does not think it's most efficiently 22nd. Okay, see if we got another short one. 35 days, that's a bit longer than I'm looking for. 14 days, that it would be all right. What do we just? He doesn't think it's most efficiently done under a centralized government planning. I understand OBC. And so he is not wanting to implement Marxist socialism, but it is still a socialistic ideology. So he believes, shall we say, generally in the idea of private ownership of the means of production, so long as, getting sort of back to Ares' quote, so long as it is used in benefiting the German people. Let's sort of look at sort of an extreme viewpoint of a most libertarians say. If you have a farm somewhere and you wish to, say, plow the farm under and salt, and that isn't going to run off and damage any of your neighbors' farms, or you're just, let's say, going to pave over your farmland. You're going to turn it into what would be a parking lot, but it's not for any business or any sort of needs of making it a car parking lot. You're just wanting to destroy its functionality as a farm, but you're not going to go and hurt any of your other neighbors' properties. Or say you're just deciding to grow a plant because it looks pretty. No economic value. no, food value, no, because you can grow things like hemp, and hemp as in for ropes, or you can grow roses that are sold in markets that have economic value, shall we say. But no, you're just going to grow something that has no economic value. Well, Hitler believes you don't have the right to do that because you must use your farmland in benefit of, because he sees race and state as the same thing. Hitler does. So it must be used to benefit the German people. Now, before you get into the extreme stresses of the war, Hitler's very much like, well, hey, grow what you want to grow. I haven't looked into all of his foreign policy, but there's very much an effort, particularly using the RAD, the Reichsarbeitsdienst, sort of the youth labor service, to put land, not to take land away from farmers, but put land back into good agricultural use, or just put it there in the first place. The Germans know they need forest because they want to cut down trees, whether it's to make rifle stocks or timbers for building houses, but they also don't want to, they're not clear cutting the forest to destroy the forest. Hitler and the Nazis were very green in all of that. Black Eye multiplayer confirmed. No, we haven't got any multiplayer confirmed yet. So they're very green, so they want to keep the forest, but the forest is a managed and used thing. So it's not that they're wanting to cut down all the forest to turn it into farmlands, but there's wasteland. There's land that is not forest, not well used. They very much, and they very much over the years from 35, 36 up into when the war starts, and even continues to some degree after that, putting the farmland into use and growing more food, and putting more farmland into use than there was during World War I. So this isn't just, this is expanding on what it was before. So, and if the farmer, is making good rational choices, the state should not generally interfere with them. This is where they diverge with a lot of fascist ideology, which really wants to do a lot more state planning. So Hitler wants the competitive element within the economy, but it's for the collective good. And if the state, the party, which becomes as time goes on and on, 36, it's somewhat integrated. By 1940, it's more integrated. By 45, the party and the state are almost the same thing. But if the party judges that it's not being used well, then, like, say, you're growing roses. Well, people still want to give roses to their wives, their girlfriends, whatever, even during the war, but going, no, we need to grow food. Okay, so there will be the state pushing things as the German people need it. But so he's not a leveling socialist. He's not a Marxist socialist, but he is a socialist. There's enough social welfare programs in there, and not all collectivism is socialism. I don't want to go there, but because we do see the social welfare programs going on, and he is not a capitalist. Hitler is not a capitalist, but he does want market. He does understand market forces exist, and he does want competition, but he wants it limited. So it's sort of like socialism with limited markets, as opposed to like you find, say, in Sweden today, in the last number of years, the last 30, 40 years, you see a capitalistic system that supports massive amounts of social welfare. So you have capitalism supporting some socialist programs, where Hitler, you have socialism that's supported by some elements of capitalism and markets. So that, hey, and so that's sort of what's going on with Hitler and socialism. That is different than fascism, which is much more centrally, well, at least ideally, much more centrally planned, and obviously different than which fascism is a type of socialism too, because they have the same social welfare programs. But they are more generally speaking, and there was probably going to be more over time, but a bit more traditionalist socially and culturally. Hitler wanted a social and cultural revolution. Fascism less so. And fascism is, at least in most cases, much more attuned to Christianity and the Christian religion. Hitler was anti-Christian. So we can look at some of the cultural programs, some of the market programs. There's difference between fascism and National Socialism without even getting to race. And so, but it is also a socialistic viewpoint. Ah, good. You're getting your carrier going. Very good, AZAT. Okay, so we are now past the 22nd of April. Coming over. Okay, we can do the 4-year plan, which speeds up a lot. So these are good, and maybe we should have done one of those, at least that one. Well, I wouldn't swear on that one, but none of these photos, I think, well, I don't think any of these photos represent who they, or images represent who they are. Second London Naval Treaty signed, which we did not. That's limiting there. Naval sizes. Okay. This is something that I've gotten in trouble with before on Black Ice, is managing the size of your armed forces. Now, your draft situation here, your conscription policy is what they call this here, is one element. Another element is the age of conscription as you push it out, and as you push it beyond this, you can see more and more negative effects. Obviously more and more manpower. And then you also have, we can come down here, construction, things like recruitment centers, which will increase manpower, and things such as that. So we need to sort of watch that. I don't know that 2 million is a bad number. And then here we do, okay, currently we have okay, so limited mobilization would increase, but we may not want to do that until we're getting closer to the war. That I think we do, yeah. Mobilization, okay, and at war, Germany, okay, so yeah. So all of those, as well as, of course, we can have women allowed, which deals with it. So we have to look at no recruitment. Okay, foreign. We can also lower our standards, which will get more or faster training time for units. War bonds. As Brett says, you sort of need to dig into all of this to figure things out. Okay. We're at partial mobilization already, which is more than this. So I don't want to reduce that down. Normal civilian, high civilian, extra, nominal civilian, low civilian we could go to. For fuel, that would help that. Let's go back here. Vulnerability, production, efficiency, naval. Hedonist. Don't know who Hans Karl is. Ministry of Education. Ostergen. Hans Karl. Never heard of him. Walter Dere. Yeah. Don't know who Richard Walter Dere is. Maybe that just, I'm used to maybe only seeing Walter Dere as his name. I don't know. I know, I think a different Schellenberg. I don't know some of these people. Franz von Papen, of course, we know him. He was the vice chancellor early on under Hitler. Then to sort of get him out of that position, he gets sent to Austria. He right now, in 36, he is German ambassador to Austria, whose mission is to bring Austria into the German Reich. And then later on, once he gets that done, a bit later on, he gets sent down to be the ambassador to Turkey. So I know who some of these people are, but I don't know who they all are, that's for sure. Okay. I think I'm going to just store up my political power for right now. Hans give more research speed. There he's saying. Research speed? That's a worthy thing. Okay. Research speed, decryption, max planning. Stability down. Who am I thinking of? The guy in charge of Daft. He's the one that I would have sort of, to some degree, gone hedonist. What's his name? I forget. If I saw it, I'd know it. But and then of course you got Weber, Christian Weber. He's definitely, I would put him in charge of the Nazi hedonists. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Okay, the United Kingdom dominates Dutch trade negotiations. British have expanded their influence over the Netherlands, to the point where the Dutch government is forced to favor them. Current trade we cannot allow. Drift into the British sphere. Okay, so I guess we will use a little bit of political power here to increase Dutch. And we also have the MIFO bills coming up. Probably want to do that too. We can do this. Want to build up a little more political power. And I think we're going to end the episode, not the live stream, everyone, but the episode. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And I really love hearing from you. So about any of the topics, please post your questions, suggestions, tips. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.